Is Peter Chu. I was born in 1952, the year of the dragon. I was born in Hong Kong. I came to the United States when I was 11. So I lived most of my early life in Hawaii. And then I moved to San Diego in the late 70s. And then from the late 70s till now, I've been here. I lived up in North County mainly. And I'm a practicing attorney. And I'm also the president of the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association, CCBA for short. You know, a lot of times people hear that name and they think we're part of a gang or an Asian mafia. And it's just this group of businessmen that came together and decided that they needed an association. And they have chapters in Los Angeles, New York, Vancouver, and basically all over the world where Chinese merchants go and settle. And the reason why they needed something like this was because they didn't speak English, they didn't speak Spanish, or they didn't speak the language where they settled in initially. So this is sort of a mutual help and self-protection group. So a lot of times dispute between families or parties, individuals, they can't go and hire a lawyer and sue, they can't go to court. They don't have the money to hire lawyers. They don't know who to hire. So this association, CCBA, they are the group of elders and established people in the community, and a lot of times they're called upon to make a decision or come down with some compromise so that society will go on. They also lend money to each other because they can't go to the bank. The bank won't touch them. So they became, sort of, okay, you need money to do what? And then they would, loan each other money. People needed money for emergencies or, family catastrophes.
It can happen to anyone.
They don't have the money to pay, well, they come to CCBA to get the money. People needed money to go to school, college, CCBA would be the source to come and provide the funds. So it's sort of a mutual benefit society. And so, throughout the world, that's the role of the CCBA. So here in San Diego, nobody knows the exact date when we formed. Okay, well, it goes as far back as the 1800s. Okay, a group of Chinese people got together and say, okay, we're going to be here downtown because this is originally Chinatown, this area of downtown San Diego. And so this group of Chinese people say, okay, we're going to have a location. And so the location is where we are today at 426, 428 3rd Avenue. And originally there was a building, and then they used it for meeting, and they used it as a Chinese temple. So they burnt incense in there. So it's very closely tied and closely related to Chinese customs and cultures. So the building has a bottom floor and a top floor. So two. So, the top floor is where, the executive committee or the people that, have the powers, they meet upstairs for board meetings and decisions, and then the downstairs would be, the general meeting room where they could show movies, Chinese plays, and the young people would hang out. So what do you do when you hang out? Well, it evolves over a period of time. So in the 30s and 40s, young Chinese members would take over the bottom floors, and they would have dance and parties. on the downstairs. And the old guys, you know, with their three-piece suits and smoking a cigar would all be upstairs, you know, saying, okay, you know, how can we make more money, or this is what we're going to do, or, you know, they'll talk politics upstairs. And during Second World War, you know, they raised a lot of funds for the Republic of China. So the wife of the president, Song Mei-ling, well, Chiang Kai-shek was the president, but Song Mei-ling, who's the wife, you know, she came to the U.S. and she was very popular, and she went throughout, you know, the whole country raising funds for China to fight the Japanese. And so she came to San Diego. And one of the things that we have inside the building, it's a series of envelopes where people from the Chinese community contributed to the war effort when she was here. So it would be a signed receipt from her on a red envelope that says, so-and-so donated how much.
Wow, those are nice.
And it's you know, was in a stack. And when we're cleaning up a couple of years ago, and we found all these boxes stored away somewhere, and we pull it out before we discarded it, and we say, look what we found, you know.
That's kind of a treasure.
This is a whole book receipt, how much you paid, and the actual envelope that the money was in. And I had the name of the person who wrote the envelope, the good luck. So I had it framed.
Yeah.
And a glass display, it's like a picture, display case, and had everybody's name and had her signature, and it's sitting in.
How many envelopes were there in total in the collection?
Oh, maybe 60 to 80 to 100.
It is probably a big case.
Yeah, it's a big. We folded it so that you don't see each full envelope,
Okay,
so you would see, you know, a quarter of it.
Where the name is located.
The important part. So it's sitting in our building down on 426 Front Street. Yeah, so that to me was the history of, you know, the Chinese community here in San Diego in the 1930s. You know, that's before the U.S. got involved in World War II, and the Japanese were, you know, fighting a war in China at that time. So that's the 30s and the 40s, and then, you know, we have displays of pictures, you know, taken when, you know, important government officials from China would come and visit San Diego. We have pictures taken during the Expo, World's Fair in San Diego, here in San Diego, when they have the Panama Expo, I think, with CCBA members dressed up, attending the fair, and Boy Scouts, you know, attending a reception for important government officials coming from China. So there's a lot of history tied to this organization, because this is, you know, de facto representative of the San Diego Chinese community. There are a few other, you know, Chinese associations here in San Diego that also have, you know, other branches in other cities. And they're organized more towards, you know, the local clan or the village type, you know. So there's another building down the street that, you know, belongs to another group that also Chinese, but, you know, we were the two dominant Chinese social organizations here. And I would hear stories from the old timers how they, you know, the two groups fought, you know, street battles.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, okay, then we really are a gang. Huh? So in the 50s, then, you know, everything is more stable, and we had more prosperity at that time. So we have different events, and you can see, you know, how well people are dressed. And you can see the Chinese, you know, ladies dressed in cheongsam, which is the long dress. You can see aloha shirts and ukuleles, because that was the time where, you know, Hawaii, you know, South Sea themes were very big in the mid to late 50s and 60s, early 60s. So we have a collection of photos with our, social activities or board members dressed, in that period. So you can see, the progression of time as the organization sort of, continue. So eventually in 1970, they officially incorporated and has...
Incorporated as a 501c3? Or
yeah, incorporated as a 501c3. So we still have the original incorporation papers and signed by the original board members. So that's a look back towards history as to who was here in 1970 and what kind of business they owned. So my term, as president, well, you don't get to be president right away. You have to join the organization first. So I joined, as a favor to somebody who was on the board, Sally Wong, and she said, you join my board and I'll join your board. And
could you explain a little bit? And there was another organization that you had mentioned that you had...
Right, I was on the Asian American Repertory Theater board, and so we wanted Sally to join, and so we said, okay, it's a swap. You join mine and I'll join yours. And she showed up for one meeting and never showed up again. I show up at my first CCBA meeting, and I was hearing, oh, there's a lawsuit from one of the tenants alleging mold. I said, oh, no good. And then there was an argument between two board members as to some minor points. I have no idea why they were arguing, and I said, this isn't going to be fun. And then I think the second meeting I went to, two board members quit. I'm going like, this is getting even worse.
Oh dear.
There's a lot of problems, and then we're hearing about this, frivolous lawsuit by one of the tenants on the senior garden building on, something that doesn't exist. He keeps claiming there's mold. So, there was issues about, how much money we have to raise to defend on this lawsuit, and there wasn't much money there, and we have to go out and raise money, but once you get into a situation like that, you join, and so you just put up with it, and then you show up at meetings and trying to figure out what's going on, and eventually all the picture becomes clear as to what's going on, and what we can do to have the problem solved, and eventually all the problems were solved. And then one day I show up at a meeting and they said, oh, we have to elect new officers now. So somebody nominated me as president, and then I voted against myself because I didn't want to have to show up for every meeting and be in charge of something. Yeah, but I got elected anyway, despite my own opposition. And so I said, okay, so as president, then let me see how I can raise some money. CCBA is the general partner of CCBA Senior Gardens, LP, Limited Partnership. Okay. So, we are, the general partner, and the whole project, it started, maybe 15, 16 years ago, okay? And, we found out that there was a vacant piece of property that's owned by the city. And it's for...
Previously there were no structures on
That's right. And so Sally Wong and another member, a few directors went down to City Hall and asked for permission, saying that, well, it's right next to our existing historical building. So it makes sense for us to take over this piece of property also. And then on it, you know, we will build, you know, senior housing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, a lot of politics and, you know, a lot of, you know, like you have to, you know, have enough members to go to a hearing and sort of show your face and say, look, you know, this is what the community wants. So we fought for it, we got the land, and then...
So do a lease with CCBA or with CCDC or with
Yeah,
the city?
it's through a lease. Okay, and so, you know, they chipped in money, and then a developer from New York, they specialize in, you know, investing money in projects to get tax credit.
Okay.
Because this is basically, you know, a write-off when they invest the money to build, you know, for the construction,
Mm-hmm.
so that they could get the tax write-off, and then they sell the tax write-off to people or entities that need a tax write-off on this tax credit. So it's sort of like a bond.
Right.
So
it's not through New Market's tax credit program or...
it's for, you know, federal tax credit. And so, you know, California, Cal HFA is, you know, the underwriter of the program. Okay, so they're the bond issuer. So you're buying tax credit.
Could you explain for viewers what Cal HFA stands for?
Well, HFA is like, you know, Home Loan Association, you know, so it's, you know, part of, you know, California Housing Authority. Okay, so that's like, well, what's their job? Their job is to make sure that there's enough, you know, affordable housing in California,
Which is an issue.
which is a big issue. So, you know, their goal is to develop, you know, affordable housing for seniors and low income, and those with special needs also. Okay, so, you know, they're one agency we have to deal with. And then locally, we have to deal with, you know, CCDC at that time.
Now Civic San Diego.
It's now Civic San Diego. So CCDC also, you know, loaned us money to build the property. Okay, in exchange for our promise that it'll be for low-income housing, and certain criterias and X number of units reserved for low-income housing. So that's where we get into Section 8. Okay, and the vouchers. Okay, so the city will pay. So, you know, traditionally, you know, we kept the rent very low. And that's, you know, why we never really receive a lot of income from the property. And the board, you know, had a, you know, long discussion over, you know, the rent issue. Because our rent has been traditionally, you know, lagging behind, and we didn't give any increase for 6, 7, 8 years. Simply because we said, well, there are people that can't afford to pay higher rent in downtown San Diego. And so, and, you know, we're not in the business of being landlord and making a lot of money.
It provides another type of benefit.
Yep. And we see the human face behind, you know, the struggle to make ends meet, and, you know, people on fixed income,
Right.
seniors.
Particularly if you're working with Social Security check, which for living in San Diego is pretty limited.
Exactly. So we decided that, no, we're not interested in raising rent. We're not. Well, we forgot about raising rent, and as a result, you know, this never came up again, you know, 6, 7 years later. And then when we realized that, wait a minute, you know, we're really, you know, very low on rent. And of course, you know, we didn't really need to look at it until, you know, recently, when we are, you know, doing the re-syndication and restarting the tax credit, because the 15 years is over, and the project can, you know, be refinanced, and we need to, you know, get the loan transferred and get a new limited partner in. And so that's been ongoing for the last 2 years, and we're close to meeting our December deadline to get everything organized.
Great.
And we got most of the government's different entities approval. We got applications in, and they assured us that it should be fine, that they'll roll over their existing loan. So it's been a steep learning curve to learn how every piece work together.
Right.
In terms of getting financing and governmental clearance and the timeline, and a lot of expense involved in something like this. So, but we're near the end, and we see the light at the end of the tunnel. So the CCBA Senior Garden complex has a community room, and community room, it's for the residents to use. So they have exercise machine, and they have a sofa and TV as a kitchen. So depending on the manager on site, the previous manager was very hands-on and very good with the tenants. So she would have Friday afternoon get-togethers where she goes to, there's a food bank somewhere here downtown in San Diego where she picks up, produce and bread at no cost. And they would lay it out on the table. So you get a section of fruits, vegetables, and bread. And it's free. Come and get it. And then, if somebody's birthday, then she'll organize a birthday party for the seniors. So she was very good in terms of wanting to, engage with the tenants. So that the room is used for that, purpose. And also for us, we have, events in there for, a Christmas party would be, one of the annual events. When dignitaries are coming down from LA to visit, then we would, use that room and set it up for the seniors to come and listen for whatever, speeches that VIPs would want to make. We have health fairs where, seniors would come in and get their eyes checked and the hearing, and a chiropractor, Chinese doctor would come in. So that's part of what the community room is. We also let other groups use it for their special needs and occasions. So mainly when it's health related, health screening, hepatitis screening. Okay, so we get the word out and we tell them, come, listen, and do your test here. So that's a good place for us to use the room. And we even had a mahjong tournament there once.
Okay, yeah. Is that very popular?
Oh, that's really, everybody wants to do that. It's part of Chinese culture, basically. Mahjong is, ingrained into, the fabric of Chinese society where everybody plays. And that's when you, don't catch up and talk to your friends and laugh. And they play for very little money. And if they lose it all, then, they don't have to take out, more money, they have very, friendly rules on playing, so that it's a long term. I want to talk a little bit about the board members and also the members itself. The board members, by our bylaws, we have 15 board members, which is a very big board. And we have 13 now, so 2 vacancies. And when I first joined, it was predominantly men on the board. And now, the ratio it's almost half and half, which is great.
More representative.
Yep. we're so happy that when the first female joined and the second, and then say, okay, now, we're very balanced. The members, unfortunately, mostly females now, because when we started, they were all couples, but, unfortunately, usually the men go first, and we're left with a lot more senior females than men. So when you go dancing, if you're men, you're very popular. They're in their 70s, okay, and as I see through the years, I see the progression, the age progressions, and now, we're getting a lot of people with walkers and wheelchairs, and to attend the functions, we have to set aside an area for walkers and wheelchairs. So they're all getting older. We're not seeing that turnover of younger members to join. And this is the focus of our recruitment drive, to bring in more younger members, to make CCBA more relevant to the folks here besides our existing senior members, because they're dwindling by numbers, as the years go by. So we have a committee to do outreach and to do PR and to do, recruiting of new members to CCBA. So putting on new websites, social media, to engage people to come to CCBA related events. So in the next few years, that's going to be the focus, is to get more young people to join our organization. Well, in every long-winded speech or interview, it's all about me, 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 me. What have I done? How great I am.
What have you done in the context of a community?
Yeah, so it's all about me, but, we always lose track of we or us or others, okay? So my wife, who's off camera, and, she's an integral part of what I do. Why? Well, she's fantastic with Mandarin Chinese. She's from Taiwan, and she speaks perfect Cantonese and Mandarin. And in a lot of social events and activities we have, it requires somebody who's very fluent in Mandarin. And, she has that ability. And she, used to be in front of a TV previously in Taiwan. So she knows how to talk in public. And nobody in CCBA can do what she does in terms of communicating in a very formal way for a long period of time in Mandarin. So she helps out greatly with that. And whenever I have to make a speech in Chinese, I have to run it through her, and she'll say, you didn't pronounce that correctly. You have to remember to say this, or let's make it more simple.
Always useful.
Make it simple so that you remember what you have to say in Chinese. Because I'm a Cantonese speaker naturally, and Mandarin I can get by, but not as fluent as she can. So, and she follows everywhere we go and silently contribute. And I think a lot of spouses of CCBA members and board members, are the silent contributor.
Are the ones who are kind of behind everything.
They lift things. They make sure things are done. And, quite a few of them, have very helpful spouses that are part of CCBA, but they don't get any credit.
So they are integral.
And they are integral to it, you know. So I'd like to thank those people on camera for their contribution to, you know, the efforts that we make every year to serve the community. People forget, you know, and that's one of the things that, you know, I really hop on every chance I get is that, you know, we're serving the community, and whatever we do, you know, we do it 100% for the public good. So if we can contribute, you know, please contribute, you know, and it's not about making yourself famous or having something on your resume. Or I tell people, you know, we're not here to stand on the side of China or Taiwan or ourselves. If that's what you want to do, then you're in the wrong organization. You know, we're here, we don't want to be famous, we just want to do what we want to do to help the community. And, you know, who knows? It's the community, the people that you help. They'll know that you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for them. So I think every year when they show up to our annual dinner, we call it a dinner, but actually it's a luncheon, you know, they're very thankful that, you know, people like us who, you know, should have better things to do are bringing them tea, bringing them cookies. And they know that we work for 2 days setting up the room, cooking, and some people, you know, make home goods, cookies and decorations, and then we have gift bags and we have raffle, and so, you know, we spend a lot of time and effort to serve. Okay, so when they come and pick up their gift bag, they say thank you very much, and it makes us feel really good. That's it. Luckily, we don't, you know, have people that, you know, on the board that, you know, are negative or, you know, non-contributing, and everybody, you know, shows up and do what they're supposed to do. So I'm very grateful for all that.